Hey guys, so for today's video, I figured I'd share with you a handful of my favorite stretches that I like to perform in a stretch routine. So you'll get to hear some of the cues that I might tell myself as I'm doing the stretches to maximize the effectiveness of them. As I'm explaining some of these stretches, there's going to be some modification, so I might flash to a modified variation of the same stretch as I'm explaining it. When I stretch, I like to start with the hips first. That's because it's a central part of the body. Everything kind of knits together and travels through there. So if we loosen up that area first, it's going to have an overall effect on everything else. I'm going to start with the 90-90 glute stretch. Again, the more bent your knees are in this position, the easier it's going to be. So you can open up to whatever angle is going to be suitable for you. And I can also show you the modification if you can't sit in this position. So first we're going to start off here in this 90-90 position. I'm going to get nice and tall through the crown of my head so that my back is in a neutral position. Now I'm going to scan through the different angles to find which area is tightest for me first. And when we're going down and over into this area, we want to make sure that the hinge is coming out of the hip area and I'm not rounding the back, because that's going to turn into a back stretch at that point, as opposed to it getting into the glute and the hip joint. So nice, long, and tall. Try to keep the back nice and neutral. I'm going to start over my thigh-knee area as I come down, and I'm just going to travel in a little bit of an arc here, thinking about being nice and long, going through the fan of the glutes and finding which area I'm tightest in. So for me, right about here, I like this spot. So I'm going to get nice and tall through the crown of my head, hinging at the hips. I'm going to think of driving this knee forward and opening up my core and slowly letting myself down into that position. So from here, I'm just going to hang out a little bit. Nice breathing. I'm going to knead around. So we want low intensity stretching to maximize the effectiveness, which means I shouldn't be breathing heavy. My body shouldn't get a protection response out of it. Now don't get that confused with not feeling anything. You should definitely feel a stretch, but you should feel comfortable enough that you can relax into it a little bit and that your body doesn't sense any danger. So right here I'm feeling a little bit of a release. Now what I'm going to do with this stretch today is I'm going to take this back leg and I'm going to start to travel back with it. So I'm thinking of driving this knee forward and driving this one back. So you can do this in stages where you go a little bit at a time, and each time you move that leg back, you should start to feel it a little bit deeper in that glute stretch, as long as you're sitting tall and keeping that back in a neutral position. So from here, what I'm going to do is extend that leg all the way back so it's nice and straight. Now, what I've been using is my torso angle from the top to get into that glute stretch. I'm going to shift that now. I'm going to come up. So you'll notice that this is kind of pushing me a little bit on an angle because of how tight I am in the glutes. I would like to sit right on top if possible. So from this position, I don't want my glute to leave the ground to get into it. I want to keep it there. But now I'm going to start to rotate from that hip joint and I'm going to get right on top to sit down into this stretch. So now I'm really feeling, again, nice and tall through the crown of the head, keeping my back in a neutral position. And here I'm going to knead into that just a little bit, nice and slow. Feel that nice stretch. And I'm going to breathe and I'm just going to hang out for a little bit. So about 30 to 60 seconds is the recommended time frame. Generally, I like to feel my nervous system relax a little bit. When I feel that tension release and I can sink into things a little bit better, that's good. I might stop there, and then the second or third time I go around is when I'll try to get a little bit deeper into that stretch, because we don't want our bodies to relapse and tighten up if we're going too deep too fast. And this is going to be one of my favorite glute stretches that I'll start off with. Okay, so we're going to move right along into the straddle stretch. Now I believe this stretch is the best bang for your buck. You're stretching a lot of structures here. Adductors, hamstrings, the entire posterior chain is going to get something out of it. So it's a fantastic stretch to do if you've got a limited amount of time. What we want to do with this one is we want to sit up nice and tall. Now for some people, you're extremely tight through the adductors and hamstrings, so it's going to be hard to sit on the floor and get the appropriate position. You can sit up on a couple of yoga blocks. You can even sit up as high as a sofa if you need to, as long as you're straddling your legs and your heels are touching the ground. And you can perform everything exactly the same as I'm going to show you here. So for the straddle stretch, what we want to do is sit up nice and tall. So even just sitting up nice and tall for a lot of people, this is going to amplify that stretch through there. And that might be the place where you hang out. So you're going to notice that my hips roll forward, and when I get my spine into a good neutral position pushing through, I'm already starting to feel a deep stretch through my adductors because I wasn't born flexible. So from here, nice and tall through the crown of the head as per usual, and we're just going to hang out here. Nice breathing, again, low intensity where I'm feeling a stretch, but my breath isn't speeding up, so I feel nice and relaxed. I can sink into this again. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to break that neutral spine a little bit. Ideally, if you can do these next movements, keeping your back neutral, then that would be the way to do it. So for me, I'm going to have to round my back a little bit, but that's okay. I'm still going to get benefit here. So I'm going to actually start to walk my hands forward again to whatever's a nice comfortable position for me. And there, I'm going to hang out for a second. Just going to breathe a little bit and allow my body to release. Then once I feel comfortable, I'm going to start to walk my hands towards one leg. And again, I'm going to get into a good position where I'm feeling a good stretch, but I'm still comfortable and I can maintain my breath. When I feel the release happen on that side, I'm going to walk my hands back towards the front again. I'm going to pass it and walk myself all the way over to the other side. Again, I'm thinking about being nice and long the entire time I'm doing this walk. I would like to keep my back relatively neutral, but in this position you're going to bend it. And then from there, I'm going to come back to that center position, maybe sink a little bit deeper if I can, before coming out of it. So this next stretch is a very basic version of a quad stretch. It's going to be appropriate for most people. So a lot of people that are extremely tight in their quads have trouble getting their heel to their butt or sitting on their heels. So this position is going to take the load off of that, and it's going to allow you to sink into it at a nice easy pace. So what I'm going to do here is I want my hips bent about 90 degrees so that my knees are perpendicular to my torso. I'm going to take the top leg, I'm going to grab the foot if it's possible. If you can only grab the shin, that's okay, but the foot if it's possible. So you're going to tuck that heel up towards your butt as far as you can get it. And then from this position, what we're going to start to do is open up the hip. So from here, I'm thinking about being long through that knee. I'm slowly rotating that leg backwards. Now as it starts to get a little bit tighter, I want to think long through the crown of my head and still driving my knee towards that back wall and really lengthening and opening up that hip. So from here, I'm starting to get a really nice deep stretch in that quad. Again, I'm going to take some nice deep breaths here. Nice gentle tension, not crazy pushing it. And I'm going to hold it for the recommended 30 to 60 seconds. Now, if you can't get into this position and you need an aid, you can absolutely use a towel around your leg to help out with it. The other good tweak about this one is when you do start to get that leg all the way back into that full position, if you think of driving this knee towards the front area or forward, you're going to get an even deeper stretch through that rectus femoris and into that hip area. So shifting to the upper body, I'm going to give you one of the best bang for the buck upper body stretches. This is going to get into your chest, your biceps, your shoulders as well. So with this movement, you're just going to sit on your butt. And this is an important one because a lot of people have difficulty with extension of the arm or reaching backwards. They're super tight here. So this is a fantastic stretch to help improve that. I'm going to go with my fingers pointing backwards with both hands. Now the closer together your hands are behind your back, the more intense it's going to be. So the wider out you are, the easier it's going to be. So you can find a range that's comfortable for you. Now with this position, again, I want to be nice and tall. So I'm going to think of actually depressing my shoulder blades, and they're going to go down like this across my rib cage. And I want to get super tall through my chest area with this. So what's going to happen here is it's going to limit my range of motion initially with that extension, but it's going to give us a fantastic stretch through the chest area, a little bit into the front of the shoulder area as well. So from here, you can either walk your hands backward or you can scoot your butt forward, whichever one works best for you. So I'm going to scooch my butt forward. As I'm doing that, I'm staying nice, proud, and tall through my chest, through the crown of my head. You'll notice that my shoulders aren't rolling forward at this point. So from here, I'm going to go to that comfortable point again. I'm going to hang out in that position where I'm feeling a good stretch. So I'm getting through my biceps as well in this position. So once I'm comfortable, I might start to try and increase that stretch a little bit more. Now here is another variation of it where I'm going to start to roll my shoulders forward. When I do that, that's going to loose a lot of tension, and it's going to allow me to extend even deeper into this stretch by quite a fair amount. So this is where a lot of people will do this stretch naturally because you get more range of motion. So it's not wrong, it's just different. So I recommend you do the first thing that we did, that first variation, and then slide into this deeper variation afterward. This one is going to focus a little bit more into the front of the shoulders, so you won't get as much out of the chest. So again, holding it for that recommended 30 to 60 second time frame, and then you can slowly ease on back out of it. This last stretch that I'm going to share with you for today is going to be for that lateral line. So this tends to get neglected a fair amount, and for most people it's extremely tight. I'm going to do this from a half kneeling position. However, you can also do it from a standing position if you find kneeling on your knee uncomfortable. So what we're going to do here is get up into this half kneeling position and a step forward with the one leg. Now the way I'm going to bend depends on which leg that I have forward. So if I have my right leg forward, I'm bending to the right. If you have your left leg forward, you're going to bend to the left. So from here, I want to have that knee stacked directly underneath my hip, my shoulder, and my head. So good posture through here. What we're going to do is we're going to take that left arm, because my right leg is out, I'm going to extend it up and reach as high as I can. What I'm going to do with my opposite arm is actually grab the wrist and traction it and pull it even further. So from here, what we're going to do now is start to bow the body. What I'm doing is I'm actually letting my hips counterbalance and bow this way as I lengthen and pull my arm over towards that right side. So from here, I'm getting a wonderful stretch through the side of the body. I'm going to take a few deep breaths. To enhance this a little bit, you can even start to look underneath that armpit and rotate backwards a little bit more, as long as you have that stability. So again, I'm going to get to that point where I'm at a nice gentle tension for me. Take my deep breaths. I'm going to hit it for that 30 to 60 seconds before slowly easing on out of it. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you guys found this video helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe, share it with your friends, and spread the word. Thank you.